All right, so my case study that I'm going to be presenting you with today is called On Track for Success. And this is all about a prominent company in the rail industry and how they went from beginning phases of agility to being very mature and presenting a very attractive and exciting new way of working to our mother company and sister companies that has caught on even today. And they're actually pursuing a greater state of agility themselves. I'm very excited to share this with you. So we were years into an Agile transformation, a strong company with a long legacy of success. We were living off of legacy products and struggling with innovation, and our competitors were putting new products faster to market than we could. We invested in training our Scrum Masters and product owners by the very best at Scrumming. We had Agile leaders who were pairing with Scrum Inc. leaders to organically grow the organization. We had a high level of visibility, both of our progress and impediments, and leadership was very focused and vested in transforming the way that we operated. And that was very evident by their participation in impediment removal and by the fact that they had invested so heavily in our transformation and our training. We used Scrum Scale to support our growing number of teams. And not unlike other companies who are struggling even as they go through the motion of trying to become more agile, we encountered some difficulties. We had late and overspent projects. And I had the interesting opportunity of being asked to develop an analysis and do some statistical inquiry on 10 to 15 years of project history. So you can imagine me in an old dusty warehouse digging through paper copies, which were all the rage 10 to 15 years ago, blowing the dust off of them and looking at a bunch of different models, 20-year, 15-year models that were used to try to say how profitable all the projects that we had completed would be to our company. As I aggregated all of this data together, I quickly started to understand that at any given point in time, we had 5 times our capacity in work at that company. I'm not sure if that was for the entire history of that company, but definitely for at least the last 15 years. And because of that, there was less than 1 full-time equivalent applied to any project at any given point in time. Now, when I sliced and diced this data, I was able to show leadership in a very compelling way that something had to change. And they were like, well, we have an executive that is Scrum and they're prioritizing their work. Yes, we did, and they were prioritizing their work. They were doing a great job. But unfortunately, we needed leadership to start drawing the line to match our capacity. So everything was a priority. And the people on the development team at the lowest levels were the ones who were deciding what was important and what was going to get worked. So we went from the state of everything being a priority to outcome as a priority. And that's because I read this book by Daniel Vacanti. It's called Actionable Agile Metrics for Predictability. I definitely gave Avi a call and asked him about some of the concepts, throughput, WIP, cycle time. And it was all about adjusting our focus, basically trying to keep everyone in the building busy and focus on resource utilization to really focusing on how can we get things done and how can we make sure that it's the most important things that we're accomplishing. So we started by limiting the projects and work to what we could actually achieve. Even though we started to prioritize our work and limit our work, we were still missing our promise dates. Part of the reasons why we were still missing our commitments were because we had our estimation done by departmental managers, not by the teams, and they were providing promise dates in our pipeline that were not dates that the teams could actually achieve. And many times it wasn't with consideration with all the other types of projects that they were working on. The estimation time for a departmental manager to turn around a proposal was about 3 to 6 weeks. By using our historical reference library, I helped facilitate large-scale estimation at our program so we could pick similar types of programs that we successfully completed in the past and know exactly what types of teams, what types of skill sets it required, and how many hours we thought it was going to take, the types of costs associated. By doing that, we reduced our estimation time down to 1 to 2 days. And because we were a very traditional company, we wouldn't just believe that large-scale estimation was a good idea because Scrum told us it was. So we had a control. We used traditional methodologies to estimate at the same time that we were using large-scale estimation. And what I found was at the end, I was able to present to leadership what was plus or minus 10% more accurate. So what was great about that is we saved time, we were using history, we had a stronger feedback loop, and we started getting in front of the commitments that we were making to our customers. The third thing, even after we got in front of the customer and we were able to prioritize our work better, we still had legacy business cases. They had 10 to 20 year payback periods. I told you guys, I crawled around in the dust and was looking at, what did we say that these projects were going to do for the profitability of our company? Did it actually happen? And what I found was that we spent exhaustive amounts of time in that building over planning these giant business cases and filling them with erroneous assumptions that we actually had no idea were going to come about. And by the way, most of them did not. We were shocked when we looked at history that a lot of the projects that we worked on and invested money on had zero net return. And in some cases, we lost our shirt on them. The things that we thought were going to be super profitable were not. The things that we didn't think were going to be super profitable ended up being our bread and butter. And that led us to really question why we had some projects open that were basically just charging spots for resources in the building that should really be terminated and nipped in the bud. So we focused on an emerging business case. I created an emerging business case that used the actual business value of proven successful projects. So if you had an idea of how you could solve a customer's problem, the great thing about it was that you could find something similar and say, hey, this new effort I want to do is similar to this other thing that made us millions of dollars. That's a great enough reason for leadership to say, I'm going to give you $50,000 to build a prototype or a working product that allows my marketing team to demonstrate this to the customer. But through that demonstration, I can determine if there's real sales here and if there's a real profit that's going to affect my bottom line. The other interesting thing was we started to make it so that there was a kill point. And that kill point changed everything because now the focus was on not only do I create working product, but if it's not good enough and it doesn't serve a higher purpose and it doesn't result in net profit, then we're going to move on. And that was the turning point. So I think through those three things, we were able to really show our mother company and our sister company how historical analysis, statistical analysis, the art of empiricism, and by focusing on working product, that you can really get results and you can have a stronger bottom line. Questions? Yes, Denise.
So Jessica, I'm curious, how did you limit the projects at work and how were you able to manage customer expectations?
Yes, two very good questions. The first thing I did is I chose a point in time. We went with a financial calendar and I chose a quarter. So in a quarter, I measured how many pieces of work we actually got done. And by doing that, I was able to determine how much we should take on. And once we started taking on that work, I saw a reduction in cycle time. So the amount of time it actually took us to finish that work went down. And that showed leadership that they could be confident that those metrics were appropriate. What was your second question?
How did you manage customer expectations?
Yes, that was the hardest part. One of the best things that we had going for us is it was similar customers asking for many of these efforts. So we were able to start by being very clear to the customer about what we anticipated their outcome to be. Because we were able to limit projects, we had more reliable outcomes. And we were able to say, we will start working on your project in 6 months. And they could prioritize what got worked first. But once we started working on it, we were very focused and on getting results to them so they could feel confident at waiting for things to get worked on.
Hi, Jessica. Thanks for this presentation. You mentioned the team that the group was kind of immature, Agile and Scrum, and then when you showed the visuals of their Kanban and everything, it looked really rich and really proud. So I'm like, how can they be not mature? I mean, look how good that looks, And then you said departmental managers are doing the estimating, which is totally in the wrong place for Scrum. So my question is, why the mismatch? What coaching did they have? What advice did they have coming in, or what advice was missing? Or did they have a coach at all in the beginning?
Yes, they did. We had great advice. It's just whether or not we're applying that advice. And because we had a traditional framework in place and we were moving towards Agile, we had that friction that all companies have, where the traditional approach is still being used and Agile is being used in pockets. And that's why I said it was a beginning state. Even though we were a couple years in, we were still missing that link from the internal engine of what these Scrum teams were doing and how the business was operating. And this presentation that I gave you was really that transformation to focusing on the business operation.
Thank you.
Thank you.